I'm sure you have many stories to tell. If I ask you, what are the 3 most important stories from your personal and professional life, what would those be?
So I think one of the most important things that I look back over the years now is I was educated in the UK and I was in my early 20s when I made a decision to come back to Pakistan. A lot of my contemporaries did not make that decision. And it was a time in the early 80s, mid 80s, जब के लोग एक तरफा बाहर चले जाते थे तो फिर वापस नहीं आते थे. I made that decision based on, again, this is a long story, but I've never regretted that because it put me back in touch with my Pakistan. I worked here for many years, I think 12 or some years. Got a lovely opportunity to work with ICI, as I mentioned earlier. It's formed my career and who I am today. The professionalism, the ethics, the overall teachings of that company. But also it made me go in a new direction at one point where I made a decision to leave ICI and take a whole new path. And people would tell me, yaar, kya tumhara problem hai? People join ICI and live there a lifetime. And I was 7 years in and I said, no, there's more to life. I have something more to do. And I jumped into the telecom sector, the cellular sector. And of course, that's changed my life completely. So I think that's an important story. I wouldn't have had that opportunity perhaps if I had not made the decision to come back. And then of course there's a whole story about how we evolved from Motorola to Mobilink. I don't know if you know, as employee, officially the first employee on the payroll of the company called Mobilink. And so it's a whole journey of 25 years from there to where we are here. And I think that had a major impact on my life, that decision. So I think the second story is more about a little bit more personal in the way it affected me. Is while at Mobilink, I decided to do this tour of the country to see how things were working, what was happening. And I went to a lot of people, villages mein, towns mein, on the streets of small villages as well. And I met people who I chatted with. I wanted to know what they were doing. And you come back with this amazing realization, जो हमने earlier बात की थी about reshaping lives. I met this old man who was on the back of a donkey cart, moving from Lahore to Faisalabad. And he had a phone to his ear.
The big ones back in the time?
In those days. And he must have been 75 at the time. So I just asked my driver, कि जरा pull over करें, I want to talk to this gentleman. And we had a lovely chat, and I asked him, कि बाबा जी की कर रहे हो phone नाल? And his answer was that in the old days, as a farmer, he would take his produce to town and give them to the right shops, take his muavza. अपना नहीं था, लोगों का लेके जाता था वो. And he would get, say, 100 rupees, and then he would ride home alone in the evenings at the back. Since he got himself a mobile phone, people would now call him and say कि बाबा जी हमारे लिए वो एक चीनी का बैग ले आए, एक चाय ले आए, पत्ती ले आए. And he would go back with loaded again and deliver that to customers at the other end and earn another 100 rupees. Now, it seems like a small amount, but if you look at his perspective, his income had doubled. Okay. And so many other stories like that, which actually when I came back, I realized कि ये सिर्फ एक technology का part नहीं है. It's actually a whole lifestyle that has changed. And it doesn't matter whether you're young or you're old, it affects your lives in so many ways. And that left me with a profound realization कि जो हम कर रहे हैं वो बहुत far reaching है और उसके impact जो है वो बहुत सारी lives के ऊपर है.
And fast forward to today, what magic it is.
Absolutely. I mean, we were building the roads in those days, the railways in those days, and now you have so much more which goes on top of that.
We do. Any other story you'd like to share? I asked for 3, I'm sorry if 2 is also fine. But
no, I mean, I think the third story, again, to me, very significant, and this is where I am today, is this, again, realization that after many years abroad on different opportunities that I had after that stint in Pakistan, I again made a decision last year to come back. And the realization, again, was that as I get to a certain age and in my career, in my personal life, one of the things that I really felt, and with my partner, you met Parvez, my very dear friend and partner at Teamup, we wanted to do something which would continue to change young people's lives, considering that, this often repeated statistic that 65% of our 220 million people are below the age of about 25. What can you do for them to help them change their lives? और ये जो हमने सारा incubation center का initiative start किया, and wonderfully, we were supported by Mobilink after that. We were supported by the Ministry of Information and Technology and the Ignite Fund now. I think it's, to me, looking back, every person should look at his life in some sections. It's about the past, the current, the future, and then your legacy. So to me, this is the future of Pakistan, that when we are able to enable young people to not just give them fish, but to teach them how to fish. So Purana Chinese proverb hai. And for me personally, to be able to say that if I want to be remembered for having done something, then this may be it, because it's a legacy that I can look back on. And often I ask young people as well, when they are trying to find a career or an opportunity, I emphasize to them कि आप इस तरह सोचें कि जो आप इस वक्त कर रहे हैं, जो इस वक्त काम हो रहा है, what is the story that you will tell your grandchildren? And is it worth sitting down and telling them a story? So I think that's the part that motivated me for this part of what I'm doing at the moment, and that's my third story.
And so glad that people like you have picked up this mandate, and where there is so much more that can be done with your own career. Without, are there more people as well who sort of who are involved into this, invested into this? I just want people to know the names that they can look up and follow.
There are so many wonderful people, who I was influenced by, I was impacted by, who are in this phase, who are here, who've helped put all of this together. I mean, there are so many names. If it would be unjust to not name people, but the ones that come immediately to mind are, of course, our previous Minister of IT and Telecom, Anusha Rahman, who foresaw this. Dr. Ismail Shah, who was the the chairman of the Pakistan Telecom Regulatory Authority. There are people like Mr. Bakai, Parvez Iftikhar. Of course, I have to mention, of course, the Mobilink people, Amir Ibrahim and his team of people who've done this. Parvez Abbasi, who influenced me in moving to this particular vocation, and the list goes on. I mean, there's so many wonderful people. There are people in Lahore like Faisal Sherjan, there are people in Karachi like Murtaza Zaidi, and so many others who are incredibly invested in this area. And I think वो हमेशा मैं लोगों से यही बात करता हूँ कि अगर हम जैसे लोग नहीं करेंगे तो फिर कौन करेगा? We have to do this. We owe it to the youth of our country to do something which gives them a better opportunity to craft their lives for the future.
True that. And so for all the young people listening, all the names, and there are many, many other names, of course.
So many more.
The great part is that there's so many incubators now in Pakistan, and many, many more to come.
Many more to come.
HEC मिलके बना रहा है, Oryx, NICs, ये तमाम hubs हैं आपके शहरों में, पाकिस्तान भर में फैलना शुरू हो गए. These are hubs, great ideas. Just walking into these facilities, you come out with so many ideas, and the mentors you meet, and the fact that you can convert your idea into an enterprise in a short time with the best of the supervision is just phenomenal, and what you can make of it. They say leaders are readers, readers are leaders. What would be the 3 books that you would recommend to the people watching? So
when this was on the list of questions, it was probably one of the most difficult questions, because I'm a great reader and I love books. So yes, Kindle bhi hai, iPad bhi hai, but I just love the feel of handling a book and reading it. So if you come to my study at home, it's just full of books. And when I first moved as a 23-year-old from London back to Pakistan, I had 1 suitcase of clothes and 5 cases of books. So you have to think through कि आपने जब 3 की बात की, so it's a tough one to name 3.
Well, we could give you an exception. You can go with 30.
But I thought what would be relevant to this particular dialogue and conversation. And there's a book called Lateral Leadership, which it's not very big. It's a red book about this, and not very thick, it's about that thick. and it teaches you how to lead when you're not the boss. Okay, and that's a very interesting
That's going
concept.
to be a very high demanded one by the Pakistani professionals.
Because they can't, leadership is not about what it says on your business card. Often enough you see CEO, chairman, director, and you come away with the realization that they're actually not prepared to lead. They're simply people who manage a business and therefore got to that position. So leadership is something else. It's about influencing the thought process of others, influencing the way they think, their approach to life and so on. And I think this book summarizes a lot of that, and it had a major impact on my career as I was growing up. So I would highly recommend Lateral Leadership. The second book for me is Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. And if you want to, we all obviously admire and respect Mandela for what he did, but this book written by him or co-written by him is actually quite big, and you need perhaps a few weeks to read it. But what it summarizes is the whole essence of resilience, hard work, patience, you know, all the ethics that he lived with in his life, and the long trial and tribulation that he went through, and yet managed to come out on top and achieve the objective he had set out to achieve. And most importantly, there was no retribution from him. There was no revenge. There was not कि अच्छा तुमने मेरे साथ ये किया तो अब मैं तुम्हारे साथ ऐसे करूँगा. So I think that is a hugely important read for any person who is trying to lead life and go forward. And the third book is something that you may not find on every bookshelf, but it's called How God Changes Your Thinking. And again, I forget the name of the author now, but I can tell you later. And it's written by obviously a Western person, and manages to summarize all the things that we think about in our Islamic teachings and the Quran and so on. And it is about spirituality, about meditation, about sitting down and just relating back to a higher being, and center yourself when you are stressed, when you are nervous, when you are angry, and so on. And again, it's a great read. It gives you a whole, what I would call a secular perspective on what is spirituality and religion and God. And I think that would be
how God,
very
how
interesting
God changes your thinking.
Yes.
Very nice one. Excellent. Thank you for recommending these. Last question. There's a lot of buzz. Naya Pakistan. But ये हमने पहले डाला हुआ था सवाल. Okay, your ideas about Pakistan. You know, we've drawn our ideas about Pakistan from what we hear from the media, and it's rare that we get opinion on Pakistan from professionals and people like yourselves. So your 3 thoughts for Pakistan, and especially so when you've come back and you're now settled here.
So Pakistan has a long way to go from where it is today. We've come 70 some years on. It's a country of huge potential. I think, having worked in so many different countries in the world, I may be a little biased, but I can tell you that the talent, the skill, the work ethic of the average Pakistani, especially of the young Pakistani, is phenomenal. And I compare them with other countries in the Middle East, even Europe and the US. And I see so many examples of those in young people today. We had those experiences when I was at Mobiling, then later at Ware, then Wateen Telecom, and so on.
All pretty young teams, by the way.
All very young teams, and already way ahead in all these qualities. What we need to be doing is to focus on how we as Pakistanis are enabling the next generation. Now, there are all kinds of ways. We've already talked about things like the Incubation Center. I think there has to be a development of an ecosystem where we look at how people who are starting up young companies, for example, young businesses, how do we encourage them through tax breaks and tax incentives, for example, because at the end of the day, it's a commercial thing. और अगर आप उसको ऑलरेडी पहले दिन से ही बोझ डालेंगे तो वो चीज़ नहीं आगे नहीं बढ़ेगी. So that is a major exercise that needs to be done for new Pakistan. Similarly, इसी ecosystem को अगर मैं 1 मिनट के लिए और develop करूँ, so we need an availability of funding. हमारे मुल्क में today the whole idea of seed capital, venture capital, private equity is at a very nascent stage. And any person, young person or young company who's trying to develop and move forward, आप देखते हैं stories in Silicon Valley and other parts of Europe and even in the East, China, there is the availability of capital for those people.
It's the other way around. Investors are hunting.
They are hunting. And I think that ecosystem is still at its very early stages, and we need as government as well as private sector to work together to evolve that ecosystem to a much more friendly ecosystem for young businesses, for young players. Because देखिए, हम सब की ख्वाहिश यही है कि हम opportunities create करें, jobs create करें. The government cannot create all the jobs. ये वो एक socialism का model बहुत साल पहले try भी हुआ और and it didn't work very well. So I think free enterprise is the way forward. But in order to encourage that free enterprise and commercial development, you've got to create the ecosystem around it. The third part again is to focus on education from a very young stage. हमारे बच्चे अभी जो स्कूलों में हैं, I happen to, through my involvement with the young startups at the Incubation Center, I've been involved with a very young team who have their own group of schools where they're educating people as young as 3 and 4. And they asked me to come and help. And मेरे पहले question उनसे ये था कि जी आप सिर्फ कायदे से अलिफ बे और ए बी पढ़ाएंगे या will you teach them technology? And their answer was, and made me very happy, they said आपने ये सवाल पूछने से पहले हमारे पास जवाब है. हम इस stage पे उनको we are teaching them how to use an iPad and a computer. So the emphasis is that the world is moving to the fourth industrial revolution. It's there now. हमारी teachings, हमारे school के system have to readjust to that. And day one से we need to make sure that our children, as they grow up, are aware of it. They are taught it in a methodical and systematic manner. And even to high school and beyond into further education, the talent of software engineering and so on hasn't yet been emphasized, and I think we need to reallocate a major part of our education resources to focus on this and develop this for the future.
Wow. This has been quite a power pack conversation. We've just heard a leader talk, somebody who has managed enterprises, turned them around, and is a strong believer in technology. And what wonderful ideas. I'm so happy that you could take out time and make this happen for us and our audiences. And I'm looking forward to a whole lot of recommendations coming from you to put them on the screen as well. There's great work happening in this country and Pakistan. If Pakistan has to rise, we need many, many more leaders, not just the few that we have. We need a whole lot of enterprises, not just the big ones or the big brands that we see and we say both enterprises hai, but small at the community level, at the young people level. We need to nurture them bad, and technology is one thing that no country, no population can do without. The answer to our biggest problems lies in our understanding of technology and how we leverage it to make access and make solutions happen for this country. Zouhair Khaliq Saab and many, many people are making this happen for Pakistan, and we hope you join the bandwagon as well. Thank you very much for watching.